Well, hey everybody, Sean Rhodes here, Chief Systems Architect and author of Bulletproof Selling, a guide for systemizing sales on the battlefield of business. Here at Bulletproof Systems, we believe that hope is not a business strategy, and we're here to replace that with the things that top performers are using to get consistently better results. Now, our weekly Bulletproof Selling series shares insights from the top minds in sales, like our guest today, from best-selling authors, trainers, and those out there in the field managing sales teams, of which our guest is also a member of that elite club. And my commitment out of every single live stream that we do, every podcast episode, is that we will create a sales system with our guest that you can use no matter the size of your business or the size of your goals. Now, joining us today is one of my very best friends in the whole world, which is why I had to have him on the show. His name is Phil Gerbyshak. He's a Navy veteran. We always got to call out the veterans in the group. Phil has done something unique, though, with his model of how he helps organizations improve their sales. See, Phil was one of the early adopters of technology as it applies to selling. But where a lot of people really went off the rails with technology, and Phil's going to fill us in on how that happened for a lot of people and how he avoids it, is they believe that technology is the only answer. Pour everything into autoresponder emails, pour everything into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Phil believes that technology is a tool to use, but not the only tool that we should be applying in our toolbox. So Phil Gerbyshak, thank you for joining us, brother. Give us a little background on you, where you came from, how you got here, how you worked for the other NSA, which is a cool story. And then let's dive into systems, man, because I know people are interested in how they can better leverage technology inside of their systems as well.
Sure. Well, yeah, we back way up. I went
Way
to high
up.
school in Crivets, Wisconsin, population 996, before the internet was even a thing. But I had a Apple II GS, writing letters on the Bank Street Writer in the library with Mrs. Burnish. And that's how I got started with tech, realizing, hey, you know what? This is a little faster than my handwriting. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Went to the Navy, delivered email by hand, as you mentioned, for the National Security Agency, trust but verify,
Right.
right? The logo for naval intelligence is "In God We Trust, all others we monitor," and that's very true. So I did that, but I tell you, Sean, I thought the internet was fake. I didn't think tech was going to take off because bandwidth was really slow. And I'll tell you, if it was still 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and bandwidth was so slow, I
Mhm.
would tell you, you know what, don't do it. But
Right.
now we know that we have unlimited bandwidth. So I did lots of stuff in between there and now. I worked as a stockbroker. I sold software, and now I'm the chief revenue officer for process and results. Where now we're all about integrating tech, right? You got to have a tech stack, even if
Mhm.
it's just two or three things, but integrating that into the telephone and using technology for insights and for speed, not for the sole source of connection.
And so let's talk about that, and where so many salespeople and sales leaders they saw tech as the next shiny thing, and there's always a new piece of technology or a new piece of software that they can invest in that's going to help their sales results. Well, a lot of them just went full bore into that vertical of selling, and they've hit a lot of challenges along the way, of course, because not everybody responds to technology, and if that's the only way that we're reaching out to them. So, explain to me a little bit about what you've seen, because you study this industry, it's your work, of how people really went full bore into technology, the challenges that they're now encountering, and what's causing a lot of salespeople to realize, hey, technology is a tool, but it's not the only one that I should be using.
Sure. Well, it really dates back all the way to the fax machine, where people thought that was going to be the way to reach people. And then they abandoned the telephone. And then we moved from there, we moved to email. And we thought, oh, email is going to be the way. And they abandoned the telephone. And then social media, right?
Right.
Social selling, which I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, Sean, but I don't like to be sold on social. I like to develop a relationship, see if there's anything in common. Let's talk and see, do we even click, right? Our personalities even a match for each other? Because frankly, it doesn't matter how great your product or service is. If our personalities don't click, I'm not going to buy it from you.
Right.
I'm not going to buy it from you. And I think we lost it with that. And then we thought, oh, well, if they aren't interested right away, if we could just drop them into an autoresponder series,
Right.
they would buy. And I'll tell you, all of those things, they have some merit. I'm not going to lie, right? If I ask about how do I use a toaster, and you can, over time, tell me how to use a toaster, when I'm ready to buy a new one, I probably will buy from you if you do that at just the right time when
Mhm.
I accidentally drop my toaster in the bathtub, nearly electrocuting myself.
Right. Right.
But otherwise, right? I mean, it just doesn't work. I mean, it does help you be top of mind, but you still have to make the phone call. And I think we relied too much on tech to be the touch instead of the insight. So
Hmm.
I really believe that tech is great for insight. In fact, I was talking with White Rabbit Intel yesterday about how they use intelligence and automated artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence to give you better insight. And I think that's
Mhm.
great. You can do that, but you still have to pick up the phone. We still have to have a conversation. I still have to say, hey, are my assumptions true? Because if they were true, and I could do that just with email, just with tech,
Mhm.
well, we wouldn't need salespeople now, would we?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Why not just set up, and I see a lot on websites now where they've moved a lot of their sales resources into just the chat that pops up, right? And there might be a human on the other side of that, but you could hire somebody with just a call flow. They don't even need to be a salesperson. They're just answering scripted questions because you're probably going to ask, the same questions everybody else did. So if we look at where tech does fit into the sales process, because I know you believe we shouldn't leave it out altogether, and we both know salespeople that are still stuck in 1976 where they pick up the phone book every morning and just go to work on the A's. Well, that's not probably the best way to go about it either. So where does technology fit into a sales system, a sales outreach process, or even generating sales meetings, or even generating referrals? Because the tech could fit everywhere, right? But where do you see a good flow starting? If I'm just getting into this field, I'm realizing, hey, I could be leveraging LinkedIn better. Where should I begin?
Well, I like your thing about chat, Sean, and I think that's a perfect place to start. And that's those frequently asked questions or frequently wish they'd ask questions. People should be able to get those wherever they want. So they should be
Mhm.
able to get those via chat. There should be a place on your website for help. You should probably have some YouTube videos for that and maybe some graphics because everybody has similar questions. But now those are table stakes. Those are no longer enough, but definitely use tech for that. Stop letting your salespeople be support people. That's just
Mm.
not useful, right? Let your salespeople sell. So with that, now as soon as it goes off script, as soon as something else is there, then escape that to a salesperson and use the tech to augment that
Mm.
salesperson's intelligence so that they're answering more difficult, non-routine questions that come up. Because frankly, when that happens, one of two things. One, your buyer is interested in actually buying. That's why they're asking the question. Or two, it's an opportunity for you to enhance your product or service. Either one, tech is a great tool because it captures it. So that's one place, right?
Mhm.
Capture it with chat. It then puts that into a CRM. So now we have a memory. Because unfortunately, right, we know people only stay on their jobs every 18 to 36 months. So at 3 years, we're replacing all that institutional knowledge that we could be putting in a CRM
Mm.
because frankly, we don't have all the answers to why people buy. I
Mm.
wish we did, but we don't. So that means a CRM is good for that. That's a great tech tool. When we move to LinkedIn, for those that have, to find the right people, it's a great tool. If you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, one of my favorite tools, there's about 40 or 48 facets of a search to identify the right person. And notice I said identify, not necessarily to reach out to,
Mm.
not necessarily to reach out to because not everybody's active on LinkedIn. In fact, not everybody has their professional or most efficient email listed on their LinkedIn profile, not because they don't want to talk to people, but because all those notifications, they get annoying and they don't
Yeah.
want them in their primary inbox. They want inbox to be only for those talking about business. And I think that's great. Again, use tech for that, to striate that, to segment that out, and use a tech tool like a Sandbox to actually segment your inbox into junk. And by junk, I mean non human communication and human communication, the good stuff, the gold, the stuff that actually matters in your inbox. So that's a great technology tool. And then, of course, a live video tool, whether we're going live on the internet or
Mhm.
just live one on one conversations, you should have a live video tool because seeing people's hand gestures, seeing their eyeballs, making sure that they show up and that they're engaged in your conversation because I can see more of, oh, that was a good
Oh yeah.
question,
Yeah,
Sean.
or I'm
Right?
looking down at my phone, not really paying attention to
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
that's right. I can see that if we're this way,
Hmm.
much like I could do that if I'm actually sitting across the table from you.
Mm.
But that still requires human beings to be present, to be there for the conversation and to answer and ask intelligent questions and not just run down a script. Because again, if all we needed was a script of here's 11 questions that you answer, that you ask and they answer, bing, 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 there a sale is made. Well, that's marketing and that's automation, and that's how tech can help
So
or actually overtake.
and we've covered a lot just in that little brief time, right? Phil has mentioned how to use technology and the value it has in researching who we're reaching out to. So in qualifying prospects, making sure we're not just reaching out to anybody, but folks that can actually buy. He's talked to us about how to use tech to do the prospecting outreach and how it can definitely fit into a larger campaign. You've mentioned the phone a bunch of times, and you and I both believe the phone is a critical element to making a good sale, especially a large value sale or a services sale. And then you've also mentioned how we can use tech not only to drive meetings, but to actually be in meetings like we are today. And I know since COVID-19 kind of rocked the world and the world of sales, especially, I was talking with a CEO of a company today, 150 salespeople, and he's found that all of his folks were outside salespeople. Well, now they're inside salespeople. And that was a tough transition for them because they were used to being able to read a lot of somebody's body language in the room. And suddenly I've got to pick up the phone and I've got to learn how to use Zoom. And I know there's a whole cadre of sales trainers now that are making good money just teaching salespeople how to use Zoom. Not your scripts or your processes or how to get a larger sale, but just here's how to turn the platform on and not look like a doofus when you're on Zoom. So it's a brave new world with technology. So talk to me a little bit about how to incorporate technology as part of that larger outreach that I'm doing. So I've found, Sally Jane, she's the, director of widgets at the widget manufacturing facility. I know she'd be a great client for my services or my products. Where should technology fit in? Should it come first? Should it just be sprinkled throughout? How should I really begin to think about building technology into my outreach campaign so that I'm maximizing it and also not relying on it in case Sally never actually opens her LinkedIn profile?
Sure. Well, first, to your point, it is all about that research, that pre-call conversation that you have with that ICP, right? That ideal customer profile. I'm going to have that conversation and really test that. It's not because I'm going to talk to Sally Joel right away, but I'm going to use that for research. I'm going to find LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name the platform. I mean, I'm going to use Sam Richter's Intel engine, and I'm going to try to find, hey, where are people actually at? Did they run in a 5K, a 10K? Are they involved in their church? Did their company just get funding? Did they lose funding? Did they hire people? All that stuff, right? So I build that up before I even talk with Sally Joe. I have something that I can mention as a talk track, as a conversation, as an icebreaker, instead of, hey, Sally Joe, I think you'd be great for us. And here's 26 reasons why. No.
Yeah.
I want to connect with Sally as a human first. Now, this is provided that I actually earn the meeting, right? That's in person. If I'm doing that on the phone, I'm using technology now to research industry updates. Is there something in the industry that's happening that is important that I need to be aware of? If I'm talking to government people right now, we know that there's some chaos in the Capitol. And we have to be aware of that and talk to that and not be someone who's an opportunist, but is someone who acknowledges there are some challenges right now, and we can help you with those challenges because we know that eventually they're going to go away, but right now we have to put the fire out. So that helps us as well. Industry could be job specific, right? So all chief sales officers likely had to pivot to digital. So now I know that, and I can say not all, but I can say 78%. If I did the research, right? I talked with 100 VPs of sales last month because I'm a sales trainer, and I said, okay, well, 78% of them said that pivoting to digital was the hardest thing that they did in 2020. Are you interested in learning how we help them overcome that? So now I've got a little bit of insight based on their job title. So we've got industry, we've got insight into their job title, and then third, and this is the one that is often the most fun, and that is, again, that human part. What's going on, right? Are they a fan of the Jets, of the Packers, of the Bucks? What are they a fan of, right? Are they excited about something? Are they an alumni of a college? Are they passionate about their church? And mentioning that not in a stalker way, but just in an acknowledgmental way.
I was looking in your window and I saw that you were wearing a Packers jersey.
That's right. Yes. Right after you came out of the shower with my knife.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's not do that, but do mention that, right? Do absolutely mention that. So that's the in common type of stuff, right? I'm a fan as well. It could be that we both know someone, but we actually both have to know them. This is where
Right.
people get technology wrong. Sean is one of my best friends. If you mention Sean and Sean tells me, I've never met that joker, you have lost all credibility with me.
Right.
So we have to be legit about that. And that's where tech helps, but we still have to be a human because just that single point is going to go wrong for us.
And let's talk about some of the mistakes that people are making right now in the world of sales with technology that they may not even be realizing that they're making. And I'll start with LinkedIn because I see it just about every day. And it might be like a sales navigator thing. I don't know, but I get these messages all about me, not about me, Sean, but about them, the company, right? We help HR organizations facilitate XYZ results. If you'd like to schedule some time to talk about how we could solve this problem in your company, here's my calendar link. Nothing about me. They obviously took no time to research me beyond my job title. And that's it. Now, what I've been doing lately these days is I write back to them and I say, I'd love to chat with you, but I want you to involve the person that's in charge of your sales process, because I'm going to help you guys get drastically better results with these messages. But that's just an example of one mistake. So tell me about other mistakes that you see salespeople make using technology. And it may not just be LinkedIn, it may be Twitter, maybe Snapchat, maybe just virtual video, like just creating like a drift video or a real short 30-second video that they dork up entirely. Talk to us about that, because that's probably going to help a lot of people out in these days.
Sure. So, well, let's back up. First, they don't have a purpose with
Mm.
why they're using the technology. Like, what is the end result? What is the action that I want the person on the other end to take? I don't necessarily have to say that, but I have to think about that. And then as I'm writing, as I'm using it, as I'm creating videos, I'm doing that outreach, I have to think, does this message advance that or does it detract from that? Does it even make sense? I got a text earlier today where someone used some robo-dialer to call a friend of mine who is in charge of a senior living center in North Carolina. He actually answered the phone. Of course, they were probably using one of those dialers that allows you to dial 1,000 people an hour, which is,
Mhm.
that's fine. I got it. But he was expecting voicemail. He had a voicemail script already. My
Right.
buddy actually picked up the phone and the guy's like,
Could
that's a
you
big
hang up and
mistake.
I'll call you back and just let it go to voicemail?
Yeah, just let it go to voicemail. I got a good voicemail plan. What? So that's a big miss, right? We rely on tech and we assume because we have, honestly, I mean, it takes us 8 to 12 times to
Mhm.
actually get a person, that technology is going to help us fail faster. Well, it just helps us fail in that aspect because we weren't ready for the positive result that we wanted because we didn't think about that. So that's a big mistake
Mhm.
that folks make. Secondly, your lack of personalization in that message is really clear. Now, Scott Leese today said on LinkedIn that he doesn't care about the subject line of an email. And that's great because he'll actually open the message and look at it. That's where he's expecting personalization.
Mm.
But let me step through here what people want to see in your email, in your outreach. First, they want to see a real person sent it.
Mhm.
Is your email info at, sales at,
Right.
schmuck at a domain?
Yeah.
Does the domain match the company that you work for? I get hit all the time with somebody has a Gmail address
Mhm.
trying to sell me a corporate solution.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I won't accept that. That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. Or their name comes up as one thing and in their signature block, it doesn't match
Ah.
because maybe they're sharing an inbox. That's a big miss as well. A big way to make technology not work for you. That subject line, often don't overthink it, but do put some thought into it because it does impact some people opening that. But ahead of time, try to get it so that people actually recognize your name
Mm.
when you send that message. I mean, if I see, Sean, that you're active on LinkedIn, I see your LinkedIn live, I might mention that as something, and I might leave a comment in your live that says, hey, Sean, very insightful question that you asked about X, Y, or Z, which now you're like, who's that guy? And you look
Right.
at it and you might not connect, but maybe then on their next outreach in the back of your head, it says, oh, I kind of remember that name. That's interesting. Maybe I should say yes. Maybe because you, like me, get thousands of those a month and you're not sure why you know them, but you do.
Mhm.
So you might take a call. So we have that. And then again, the under customization and the pretend personalization helps tech fail.
Mm.
Dear insert first name here. I can tell you I have one person that she forgets to mail
Oh
merge
yeah.
every time she sends out her newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she does it on purpose. Maybe not. I don't
To get a
know. But
response, yeah, that's funny.
yeah, it sure doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. And then if you just mail merge and you've never talked to them and you don't look at it, some people are getting smarter and they're adding symbols in their name, which if you mail merge, that turns it into a control character, which
Mm,
means it's a series of, like it could be parenthesis 250 asterisks instead of a smiley face or instead of a rocket ship.
mm-hmm.
I know that you scraped my data if that's the case, or people who have a first initial and a middle name, or I have a friend whose name is AJ, that the systems are trained if the first two letters are capitals to lowercase the second letter. Well, now it's capital A, little j, in which
Mm.
case he knows that it was an automated sender. So doing things like that because you don't take the time to understand what am I really trying to do here, and I don't take the time to proofread, those are the biggest fails. And we could go on and on about those.
There's
But if you
tons.
start with a purpose and then you take the time to proofread and make some sense, it's going to happen. And for those that are listening that are saying, Phil, I don't have time for that. Well, here's what I'm going to ask you. If you send out 10,000 messages and 9,990 of them mark you as spam, on the next attempt, how many do you think are going to go through your email sender? Very
Or
few.
get to their inbox, right?
Yeah,
If it
yeah,
goes
or get to their inbox or any of that
yeah,
crap.
yeah.
That's right. Yep. So instead, again, not suggesting every single message has to be personalized. You can certainly, again, target job title. You can target those things, but make it about them and what
Mm.
they give a crap about instead of about you and what you give a crap about. And that does take just a smidge more time.
So we've talked a lot about the initial phase of technology in the prospecting process, both on the research side and then on the initial outreach piece, customizing, making it about them, something of interest to them that they might find valuable or insightful. Where have you seen technology work well a little deeper into the sales process? So maybe we've had a conversation, they're on the fence, or they're not quite in their buying window, or they're talking with other decision makers, if there's a committee involved in that purchasing decision. How can I leverage technology in those situations to get the result that I'm after?
Sure. Well, a lot of times when you send a proposal into a corporation, they take your proposal and then they ghost you because they've got to get a meeting together of the minds. They
Hmm.
need 7 people, 11 people, whatever. And they say, no, no, just tell me all the answers and I'm going to download it. And
Yeah.
it's like a game of telephone. Instead, here's what I encourage you to do: take Zoom, take a platform, share the screen, and walk through the proposal yourself.
Hmm.
Hey, Sean and the team, I'm just wanted to share some insight into the proposal. Here's some typical questions we get, and let's talk through this. And again, here's where tech works. And I'm right here if you need me. So just feel free to dial me in. So let me know when you're going to do that. So we use tech to schedule it. We use tech to record it. We use tech to kind of highlight the important pieces. And we use tech to be present on a conference bridge, on a Zoom call, whatever it is, so that we're there. That's one way that it's really effective, right? That proposal presentation is really
Hmm.
good. Or better yet, do it live, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to fly me in anymore. You don't have to say, well, and salespeople used to lie about this. Oh, well, Sean, I'm going to be in Boston next Thursday. If you say yes, I'm really have
Right.
no
I got to
problem
book a
being there,
flight.
right?
Yeah.
I got to book a flight, but I'm going to be there. So would it be okay if I stopped in? And now with COVID, with all of this, that's no longer the thing. So instead, make yourself available so you can answer those questions, so you can be present, and then use technology as a follow-up tool. Now, technology could be a video, right? You could use Loom, Vidyard,
Mhm.
OneMob, take your pick here, BombBomb, whatever. Or you could go the other way and you could try to be a little bit funnier. You could use some memes and
Mhm.
make a meme of yourself. Or if someone ghosts you, here's a great way to use technology. Hey, Sean, I'm hoping you didn't catch the COVID bug and maybe I did something wrong, but I was hoping that you could just let me know that you actually received my proposal and when you think you can get back to me. Now that's way more fun, very simple, right? 15 seconds.
Hmm.
I use a tool like Vidyard that turns that into an animated GIF, and
Right.
I might even make sure that you know that that wasn't the same because I've got a whiteboard now, right? I've got a whiteboard. Whoops, you can't even see
Oh,
that,
you know,
right?
yeah, you got your
That's
background
pretty
on.
cool, right? I got my background working, but I got a whiteboard in front of me that then says, "Hey, Sean,"
Right.
and now you know that I'm talking just to you. So lots of ways to use technology there. You can also use it to send flowers or cards. I had
Hmm.
someone actually on my podcast who has the greatest cookies that I've had. You can send cookies out and use the tech to schedule that. Thank you tools like thanks.io will help you with that too. So let the tech work with you. Just don't over rely on it. And that's kind
Hmm.
of throughout the process there, even in a follow up as a thank you to that point, whether the deal closed or not, use that technology to touch them in a personal way, not in a blast way.
And so that's something you brought up that, you figure like, why haven't people thought about that? Using video to walk people through a proposal or even through marketing materials. I mean, some of our marketing materials are complicated because it's a complicated purchase. This is going to be, a real deep PDF I'm going to show you here, Sally. It's 15 pages long. Let me highlight the areas that you really need to pay most attention to at this point. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our show today, we love to create sales systems. So I want to make sure I get to do that with you because this is going to be a fun one. We use a very
Sure.
simple acronym to do it. It's called TRIM because it's all about trimming hope from the sales strategy. And the T in TRIM is trigger. So if we talk about using technology, let's say in the middle or close to the end of a sales process, what is the trigger event that you see, like that's the event that brings this thing into play? Once that happens, now I can film a video. Is that you getting a proposal together, getting a request for proposal? Where do you see that best used in your process?
Well, let's talk about a case that often doesn't get used and how we could use it. And that is I sent a proposal. I know that it was opened, but I didn't
Hmm.
get a response.
Ah,
So
okay.
I sent, right? So it's because the ghosting situation is among the
Oh yeah.
worst
Oh
for
yeah.
a
It's
salesperson.
it's awful, awful. Yeah,
It's
hate it.
horrible, right? It feels bad. It's like I'm dating again.
Yeah,
Like I called her, but she didn't call me back. Or I guess
yeah.
now I swiped right and she didn't swipe on me. I
Right.
guess I don't know. I'm too old for that stuff. But anyway, so they ghosted, right? So using a technology tool that actually shows that they opened it and perhaps who all viewed it,
Mm,
right? Because
right.
with that, and that would then trigger once it hits a certain threshold. Let's say that I know that there's 10 people on the selection committee. Well, once it hits 4 or 5, let's say that's my trigger event that said,
Mhm.
whoop, I should reach back out because clearly there is an indication of interest here.
Love it. So that's the trigger. And now we're going to talk about making this thing repeatable. And so what I used to do in the early days of running a business was try to remember, okay, now that happened. 5 people opened the email. What am I supposed to do next? And how is that supposed to sound? And how many times do I send it? And who do I send it to? And on what platform? It gets very confusing, right? Because you're managing 1,000 things as a salesperson, let alone an entrepreneur. So what are the things that I need to make sure I do first, second, and third to make this thing repeatable? This could live in a checklist or in my CRM or somewhere else outside of my head. But what are the first couple of things I need to do once I know 5 people have opened my email and seen my proposal?
Well, I should already have figured out what the next step is and why I'm going to send this message. So I have that written down. And there might be 3 or 5 different reasons that happens. They might
Mm,
have opened it because there's questions. They might have opened it because there's interest and they're not ready to make a decision yet. There's probably 3 or 5 reasons. So I write those down and I have a little bit of an outline as to that. And then I'm practiced up, and I'm not saying that I record the video ahead of time, but I do absolutely practice and write out what I want to say. Makes it a lot more repeatable, all of those. And then I also have one with, I'm not sure why you opened my message 5 or 6 times, but I just want you to know, hey, if you have questions, I'm here for you. Let me know, right? Just really simple. So that makes it more repeatable. That preparation on the front end helps
mm.
it be repeatable. To your point, Sean, checklist in my CRM, could be on my whiteboard in my office, right? Because often that's where I remember stuff. Whatever helps you.
Okay, so we've got the trigger, we've got it repeatable, it's outside of our heads, it's got the first couple of steps, maybe a script. I make great use of a teleprompter app on my
There you
MacBook
go.
Pro because that way I can just, plug and play, really customize in, but the template doesn't change. So I've got that part done. Now the I in trim is improvable. how do I know that this thing works well, or how do I know that it didn't get me the results that I was after? Sending this type of a video after people have opened a proposal. How do I know that this thing either works or doesn't?
Well, if again, let's back up here. We have to get what were our results before the video.
Mm,
If the typical win rate was 30%, 40%, whatever it was, right? The goal with that, first of all, is the win rate improved? That's one way to see if it's better, right? To see if you're better, or did it decline? Hopefully it didn't decline. If it did, you need to hire a
right,
video coach, and that's cool, right? A whole nother
right.
conversation. Also, then you can see, okay, so responses. Did relevancy of responses improve? First, you want to see
Mhm.
if any response improved, right? Did anybody respond to you and they think you're a total dork? And the first time you're on video, you will be. I was. Sometimes I
Mhm.
still am. But hopefully it's a relevant response that because you asked a question in that. Sean,
Mm.
when do you think you'll get back to me with an answer? And if they actually are specific about that, you know that your video worked or that it needs to be improved. The other way to know that it's improved is did they watch to the end of that
Ah.
video? Not just did they click the video
Mhm.
and then like, ah, God, that guy's voice is so annoying. I never want to hear it again. But
Right.
did they actually watch to the end? And then
Mm.
last but not least, right, again, that action that you asked them to take very clearly, very directly, how many times did that happen? And then again, the first one that I would say that you might want to consider is did anybody even open it, right? If
Mhm.
nobody opens it, right, that means your subject line is bad or their email didn't get it, in which case this is not a method for you. If you call
Right.
them and they never got it, well, this says their system doesn't allow videos, in which case you put them, do not email videos in your CRM, again, a use for technology that's going
Mhm.
to help you win more deals.
So that's beautiful. We got trigger, we've got making it repeatable, we've got making it improvable, and the final bit you already touched on, the M is for measurable. And so obviously one of the key metrics of measurement is, did my close rate improve with this video on these kind of stalled proposals? And then
Yep.
another piece of measurement that I'd love for you to talk to, since you are a sales manager, is the internal piece of measuring this. So how do I make sure as a sales manager that I'm tracking stalled proposals, and that if my proposals stall, that this system comes into play? Because just knowing that we can do it is different than making sure my salespeople use it at the appropriate time. So how would I, as a sales manager, make sure that my salespeople are implementing this on stalled proposals?
Well, if you're using a tool like Outreach that has a sequence of events that need to happen, you can see if the box was checked that says, yes, this step was completed.
Mm,
So at step 7, or anytime there's a stall, it might say send video follow up.
gotcha.
If that was checked, you can measure it. If it wasn't, you don't. Now, if you want a manual way, you go in and you look and you analyze the pipeline of your sales team every single month, maybe every single week, and you see what's stuck.
Mm,
Whatever's stuck, then you go in and you look at it and you say, okay, Sean didn't do a video. Sean, go do a video. Or
right.
Sean, you did a video. Let's review the video so we can improve it. Or Sean, you did a video, but it wasn't on topic. It
Right.
wasn't one of the ones that we said, right? You just
Right.
said, hey, what's up? So any of
Yeah, you
those,
went off
you can
script,
measure
buddy.
that. That's right.
I love it. So that's a beautiful system, and something that I had never even thought of to do. Right, and that's why I love these conversations, because just getting to talk to people who are in this field every day, learn things that you never would have considered. And it's so obvious, so simple. But unsticking a proposal with the system that we used, we've got ways to make repeatable, improvable, and measurable, which I know is going to help anybody out there that has that type of a business model. So, Phil, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, man. But I know you've got a lot of things going on in your life, in your world, and on social media. Where can we learn more about Phil Gerbyshak and the great work that you're doing?
Thanks, Sean. Well, I would encourage folks to go to processandresults.com. We've got a blog there. We do webinars about once a month. You can also always connect with me on LinkedIn. If you can spell Gerbyshak, Gerbyshak, you'll find me and my brother Paul. Paul's got about, I want to say 12 connections. I've
Nice.
got a little over 12,000. So feel free, connect with me. If I can assist you, let me know. Or of course, reach out to Sean, and Sean can always connect you too.
Happy to. Well, for everybody that's watching or catching the podcast, make sure that you are following myself and Phil on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for the live streams that we're turning out each week. And make sure to check out our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. Of course, for more sales systems to help you replace hope with certainty, make sure you're checking out the free resources that we're posting every single week over at www.bulletproofselling.systems. LaShawn Rhodes here, joined by Phil Gerbyshak. It has been a pleasure serving you. Phil, let's go out there and make selling bulletproof.
Amen. Let's do it.
Let's do it.